Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Lizzie, and for today's video, we are going to be talking about Scare Package 2, Red Chad's Revenge. So this is obviously the sequel to the first Scare Package film. If you have not seen either of these films, I will be talking about spoilers, so I highly suggest heading over to Shudder and checking these out. They are Shudder originals. If you have not seen these or heard about these films, they are like horror anthology style films. The first one takes place in a movie rental, very much kind of like blockbuster Hollywood video style, but it's owned by this man Chad, and throughout the first one we are watching these like B-movie style films that he's playing while at the rental store, and they kind of start to like come alive. The second one takes place at, and again, I forewarned you, spoilers, Red Chad's funeral, and we see kind of our guests of the funeral. They're watching this video that he does, and then while they're going to leave from the funeral, there's like an explosion of gas and they're all knocked out. And then in a very Saw style, which is really kind of how the whole film's done, they wake up to like videotape. They have to go through and watch these B-style horror movies that Chad was a fan of, and get clues from the films to then go to like the next room, and it just kind of continues that for a really long time. Both films, I kind of said the same thing in my review for the first one, that it felt like they started to go a little long. This one kind of felt that same way. I still really enjoyed it all the way through, but they do just after a while start to feel a little repetitive and a little long. But I did really enjoy the way that this film was done. I really enjoyed the film all over. I liked, of course, like the Saw aspect of them being like trapped in these rooms having to like play these games, and then of course throughout the entire film there's tons of horror references to, you know, classics that a lot of people would get, and then ones that, you know, people wouldn't, which kind of plays into these characters as well. They've kind of been chosen because of their lack of appreciation for Chad and for horror. We have kind of our final girl from the first film reappears in this, but I really did enjoy like the films that they chose to play, that are like chosen to play. They're not actual like real life movies, they're ones that are made for this movie, so they're movies inside of a movie. They're all kind of like parody style. The first one, which of course I really enjoyed, I will say probably my favorite. There's a film later on which I'll talk about that comes in pretty close in second, but the first one is like the final girls, and it takes place at like a college campus, and you have these group of girls that are your stereotypical survivors of horror film. So they're kind of like the nerdy girls, the girls that like don't have sex, like they're the quote unquote good girls of the film, but it's switched around so that they're actually the ones being killed off, and they are very like self-aware. That's kind of a great thing about the first film and this one, is how self-aware they are. But these characters are very like aware of the trope that they're living in, and they're kind of like, hey, like what's happening? Why are we the ones that are being killed when normally we're the ones that are surviving? And the group of girls that are called the likely to dies are the ones that are living. Our main kind of likely to die girl that we meet is a character named Buffy, and yes, she is portrayed after like Buffy the Vampire Slayer. She's got on the cheerleader outfit, she's blonde, she's the only one that seems to be like surviving the attacks of this killer, and they even at one point try to like doll her up to look like them to like distract him, but she still survives, and she pretty much like survives by being herself. And she gives this really like great speech on that, of like, why is it that like her character is the one that normally dies just for existing in a way is, you know, quote unquote not like generally appealing. And she kind of addresses a big problem that is in a lot of these kind of like older slasher films, that because inevitably we have a final girl, but she's this like quote unquote pure character, that because men have written her to survive, they can then spend the rest of the entire film franchise, whatever, treating her character a certain way, and it's like okay because of like the type of character that she is. And I love her speech, and I definitely loved that opening film. That's, as you can see, that's pretty much why it's like my favorite. And then again, they just go take clues from these movies and go through these different levels to beat through. And for like our last location and our last film, they're in Rad Chad's video store, and they watch this film again, that they then have to find what movies it's referencing. And they figure out some of them, like they figure out that it references Stand By Me, which of course not a horror film, but a classic. And I picked up on that right away. Kind of a little bit Goonies-ish as well. And then Reanimator, which it took them a very long time to figure that one out. And also like Pet Sematary, they reference as well. So I really enjoyed that film section as well. And that's the one that is definitely like pushes for like second favorite in this. All in all, I did really enjoy it. Of course, we have a reappearance of Joe Bob Bridges in this, who has his own show on Shudder, makes an appearance in the first one. He is referenced in this again as well, which is of course always great. We also have Kelly Maroney, who is an actress that was in a lot of kind of like B movies, B horror movies, especially in like the late 80s, early 90s. She is in Chopping Mall. So definitely like again, late 80s, early 90s horror icon. She's one of the people that's like trapped in this. But all in all, I really, really like this film. I definitely think that they are worth checking out, especially if you are a horror fan. There are, of course, horror comedies, so if you are looking for something just kind of lighthearted and fun to watch, I really suggest checking out both of these films if you have not seen them yet. There are definitely tons and tons of horror references throughout both films. I mean, there's a whole scene in this film that references A Nightmare on Elm Street, and I definitely think there's like a little bit for everybody in these films, no matter what kind of like horror films that you enjoy. So if you have seen Scare Package 1 or 2, let me know what your thoughts are on these films in the comments below. I hope that you did enjoy this video. If you did, please do give it a big old thumbs up. Make sure you hit the subscribe button for more spooky and horror related content, and I will see you all again later with another video. Bye!